Yeah, so my name is Joe Mwita Thwagi, and I am a pastor of Upendo Gospel Community Church. I live in Maroroi. Yeah.
Okay. Then, of course, we are here because of that story. Maybe you could just give us a background of at what point did I saw you when your mother called you. So maybe you can just introduce how it all started, and then we go backwards. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So on Tuesday at about 6, just past 6 a.m., I got a call from my mom. She was disturbed, and I could hear her. She was crying, and I knew something was up. So she started telling me that things are bad. Our people have been killed. Yeah, so I asked her. I told her to just explain to me what the issue is, and she told me that she had received a call that my aunt, her name is Rachel Wambui Mithanga. Mithanga was my grandfather. That she and my cousin's name was Miriam Njoki. That they had been attacked. So Miriam and Rachel.
How old?
So Miriam was because she is now deceased. She was 44 years. Rachel, my aunt, is 45 years. So they have 1 year apart, but it's because my aunt was the last one. So Miriam Njoki belongs to another older aunt. Yes. So that older aunt was also in the same house, but she has a mental health problem. So I think the attackers just left her because didn't seem like a threat to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so when your mother called you, what story did she provide? Like, how did it lead to them being attacked? And how you can maybe describe the injuries and everything.
Yeah, so what happened is that the previous day, Monday, my aunt Rachel together with Miriam were just noticed 3 men who are known to them. So a man called Wanyoike and his 18-year-old son and his brother, Wanyoike's brother, that is. And they were cutting trees at my grandfather's, trees that my grandfather planted, which belonged to my mother and her sisters. So they went to tell them to stop, but Wanyoike and his comrades, they beat them up, and after they beat them up, my aunt and my cousin went to report the issue to the police station. So they got an OB number and a P3, and they came back with a police officer. So when they came back, when the men saw the police, they ran. So the piece of land is just bordering the Aberdare forest. So one of the reasons why it's such a prime property is because there are many indigenous trees in the forest that people love to go and fell. It makes good charcoal, and some of them is sold for other purposes. But it's illegal because the government protects, the constitution protects indigenous trees.
Yes.
So the piece of property that is between that forest and money is my grandfather's land. And so that's one of the problems, that those trees that are valuable are there. So these men went in there to get those trees. And so anyway, when the police came, they ran into the forest, to the Aberdare forest. And as they were running, there are people who heard them make threats, we'll be back and you'll see. Yeah, so...
Who are these men?
These men, they are squatters in my grandfather's, late grandfather's land. They were IDPs in the late 1980s, early 1900s. Some who came My father initially had a 23-acre farm that he bought in the Nandarasi scheme, and he sold most of it and to some of these people and some neighbors, and he remained with 7.5 acres. So some people who had come, you know, as a result of some of the clashes that used to happen, he gave them a place to stay temporarily. But of course, they took advantage of that. And throughout the years, since the mid-1980s, we've lost my grandmother in mysterious circumstances. She went to hospital, and some people came and took her, and the hospital said her people came for her, and we are her people, so we do not know who took her.
You've never seen her?
We've never seen her. I myself have never seen her with my own eyes, because she was taken before I was born. My uncle, Gidengi, was fetched by police and taken to remand in Naivasha. They had just dubious claims. It was never established. In fact, there was no formal charge was given. But what happened is that he died in remand, and his body was never released. So that's another one that went, and it's highly suspected that it was about the land. And then my other uncle, it's called Kijabe Mithanga. He died in 2006 or 2007, I can't quite recall. It's one of those 2 years. He was poisoned in town. He went out to drink with some of his friends, just in the nearby town near Nyandarua, and he was poisoned there. Yeah, it was just about that time when now my grandfather was passing, because he passed away in 2006, and there was a lot of tension because of the land, because these squatters had refused to get out of the land. In fact, now the issue went to tribunal, and then it now went to court. And when it went to court, eventually the court ruled in favor of my mother and her sisters, and in 2012 they were able to get the title deed of the land, and their names are inscribed on that title deed. All the 3 sisters, except the one who is not mentally fit. So so that was settled, and we thought, hey, this has been settled. But now a title deed is just a piece of paper. If the authorities on the ground do not want to enforce what the court has said, there is little that 4 women can do, or 5 women, because my cousin was also staying with them. There's little that they can do to remove men from such a property. So what happened is, you know, there was a bit of politicization, area politicians, some of the authorities, you know, just making things difficult for my mom and her sisters. So it got to a point where Wanyoike assaulted my mom. He held a panga. He came together with his mom. They held a panga to my mother, and you know, they beat her up. And my mom, like there were some passers-by, and so they didn't do what they wanted to do. And my mom reported them, and the case went to court. That was over 5 years ago, and that case is still in court, an assault case. There was an assault charge that was that Wanyoike and his mother were charged with.
Nothing was done.
Nothing has been done yet. It's still in court.
It's the same guy now.
Same guy. This is the same Wanyoike we are talking about now. So this is not something that he started now. Part of the reason why I think he was he of course he has his ways with the authorities, he has his ways with the people around. Sometimes when the area politician comes, you know, he looks at 5 women, 5 votes, versus maybe this family that has, you know, and they have their own other people that they come with. You know, so it's a game's number. And sadly, it just becomes problematic.
Okay. So after they reported to the police, what measures have been taken?
So at first, there seemed to be like nothing was being done, because when you mean when it was reported on Tuesday?
Yes.
So on Tuesday, what happened is, in fact, I was reading through the report, the witness report, that is a policeman who was in communication with my aunt and my cousin. He tried to call them and their phones were off. He thought that that was odd. And so he came to check on them. He's the one who found them along the road. So these men, they broke into the house at night. That is Tuesday morning, probably around 5 is when they are saying the incident took place, 5 a.m. Broke into the house, beat them up. They had machetes. They beat them up and they cut them up. And they raped them. And then they dragged them to the road, and that's where they bled and one died.
They dragged using?
Their hands. They dragged them out of the house using their hands just all the way to the road. So it might have been that they may have been more than 3, but at least those 3 are the prime suspects.
So maybe any appeal, maybe you'd like to make?
Yeah, sure. The first appeal is to the government. I think the government's role is to protect its citizens. That's why they've been elected to office, and those who have been appointed to office. Policemen are meant to serve and to protect, and that's their job. The DCI, the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, their work is to investigate. And so my appeal, first and foremost, is to the government. These men are on the run. They are fugitives of the country, the Republic of Kenya. And they must be met with as much force. These are brutal men who are willing to go to any lengths to ensure that they get what they want, even if they kill helpless women. I mean, there is no better way for the government to demonstrate that it's doing its job than to ensure that they catch these murderers and that they put them to justice and that it is meted to its full extent. That's the first appeal. Of course, the second appeal is with regard to my aunt. She's still recovering. She's at Naivasha District Hospital. And of course, the appeal is that people can help us. Of course, there are some bills to cover, prayers. I've been very encouraged by Kenyans on social media, both on Facebook and Twitter. Just a lot of help and interaction and helpful suggestions. It's so encouraging just to see my fellow citizens just come and condemn this in the highest order, and they are tagging the DCI and the Kenya police there, and I think they are doing that rightly because they must do their job. So also help us with regard to my aunt. We want her to continue living. This man even plucked out some of her teeth. I mean, these are brutal men, and they must be brought to book.